Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, a member of the Podbros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And don't forget to visit our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, as well as Tape Armor, and find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and today I'm here with James 300 Foster. And I mean, that's a pretty sweet nickname. Like, I can't think of a more manly freaking nickname for for a martial arts competitor as well as an instructor. So, James, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really do appreciate you having taking the time to come and talk with me.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. You know, I always see the little advertisements for your podcast pop up here and there on Facebook, and I was like, man, they're using a picture of me there in a gi, and it's called Big Jiu-Jitsu, and they've never had me on, so I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, you know, a Sasquatch. Now, the thing is, though, he's a Sasquatch in a gi, but you've got, like, the straight Leonidas thing going on for you. Like, you know, you got the beard on point and everything, so it's really cool to, like you've adopted this, you know, 300 Spartan, like, just... like character for yourself. So like, how'd you get started doing jiu-jitsu, and how did you kind of take on the 300 persona as well?
So I started jiu-jitsu. I was in karate for a long time when I was younger. I started karate at around 10 years old, and I did karate for almost 10 years. And it was around the time, maybe my 7th or 8th year into karate was around the time the UFC came about and everybody saw Royce Gracie. So for me, that was my first introduction to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and immediately something that caught my interest. And I was wanting to branch out and kind of expand my game, because I was to the point in karate where I was kind of feeling getting a little bored, feeling it was a little stagnated, wasn't really learning anything new. So the jiu-jitsu was something really fresh and new to me, and myself and a few other of the black belts at the karate school kind of started trying to reverse engineer jiu-jitsu on our own and try to copy and mimic what Royce was doing in the UFC. So that was kind of my first foray into dabbling in jiu-jitsu. So from there, in 1996, I branched out and started my jiu-jitsu journey, quit training in karate, and been doing jiu-jitsu ever since.
Nice. Where are you from originally? Like, what area you started training in and whatnot?
So I've been here in Washington State my whole life. So I started training out here under a gentleman named Marcelo Alonso, who's a really, really good Carlson Gracie black belt. And I started with him. Well, his school was first. Actually, he was the only BJJ black belt in the area at the time. So I started with him and just stuck with it and ventured from school to school. One school would shut down, another school would open up. It was a very, a very new time for jiu-jitsu here in the States. So especially here in Washington, you kind of had to train wherever there was a school, because they would pop up and close down within like a year or two. So you didn't really have the luxury of sticking under one lineage back then.
So pretty much you get it in wherever you could, just because. Was it based on popularity or just kind of demand and for the sport?
Well, a lot of times back then, I think a lot of the guys that were coming over were either a little too, a little new to business, or they had visa issues and all those things, not being really experienced with traveling over here to America. So I think there was a few times where it was due to visa problems. The instructor would get sent back to Brazil, and then it would be a lull where we didn't have anywhere to train for several months or a year. So we would kind of all just kind of stick together and train in each other's garages and whatnot until another school would open up. So me and a lot of the other people who are now black belts with schools in this area, we were all in that group together, all group of friends that kind of stuck together and went from school to school where jiu-jitsu was available.
Nice. Well, at least you had that group of friends and people you trained with to kind of, I guess, keep you like afloat until something else came along for you to latch onto and start getting your training in again.
Yeah, it was great, and it gave you a wide variety of different approaches to jiu-jitsu as well, getting to train with a lot of different instructors while, not being able to stay under the same association or lineage may have its drawbacks. It wasn't through choice that I wasn't being under one association or lineage. It's just literally would be the only place open to train at. And you kind of had to go there if you wanted to keep learning jiu-jitsu. So I had the benefit of learning from a lot of wonderful instructors over the years through that.
Well, good. I'm glad you're able, obviously, if you didn't, then we wouldn't be having this awesome conversation. But
Absolutely.
So where did the 300 thing come in? I mean, I remember 300 came out, what was it, like 2004, somewhere in there?
Yeah, it's been a while now. Gerard Butler will never look that good again. It's kind of sad. So actually, the nickname was given to me by my good friend Ari, who runs Submissions 101. I was up there doing a seminar with some of my other friends, and he's like, your nickname should be 300. You look like Leonidas in the 300 movie, and it just kind of stuck from there. And then everybody was kind of making that connection, and now it's to the point where I can't shave if I'm going to go teach a seminar somewhere because they all want the 300 look.
Yeah, they want the Leonidas, not the president's, Secret Service.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so that's how that all came about. And a lot of people think it's they guess, is that because you weigh 300 pounds? I'm actually not. I'm about 6'5", 285. Maybe after Christmas, I'll be up closer to 300 after pigging out. But I actually have a super fight in January, so I'm trying not to pig out too much around the holidays this year.
Oh, that's awesome. What do you, can you give us any details about that? Because I know a lot of our listeners love watching super fights, like just anything they can jiu-jitsu related they want to watch.
Yeah, so I'm doing a super fight with UFC veteran Trevor Prangley over in Eastern Washington in Spokane on January 14th. There's a jiu-jitsu tournament over there, and we're going to be the featured super fight. So I'm really excited about that. Trevor, a lot of people don't know, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. And I'm just looking forward to competing with him. He's a great guy, and it's going to be a good time sharing the mats with him.
Nice. So, I knew you were a big guy, but I had no idea. 6'5", 280, like 280, 285. That's monstrous with like jiu-jitsu. So I know a lot of people talk about the big guy jiu-jitsu versus the small guy jiu-jitsu. Do you believe in that, or do you feel like it's kind of like,
I think it's
lip service or something?
My opinion on it is it's all jiu-jitsu. You either have good jiu-jitsu or you don't. So it doesn't matter if you're big or small or whatever label you want to put on it. It's pretty black and white to me. You either have good jiu-jitsu or you don't. Something is either good technique or it's not. So I don't like putting it within that frame of either big guy or little guy. I think it's either a good technique or it isn't. And I believe that a good technique should work whether you're little or small. So I try to practice and teach techniques that aren't size specific or athletic ability specific. I'm trying to teach jiu-jitsu that can work for everybody.
Yeah, to me, it's always felt like kind of like a polite way of saying, like, it's okay. That's a little guy move. That's why don't practice.
Right, or it's a little underhanded dig at a guy if he's big. It makes people feel better if they get caught. Well, that's big guy jiu-jitsu. It takes away any technique that you use. All they have to say is, well, you're a big guy. It's kind of a little bit of a dig.
doesn't matter. I started on my ass, swept you, or like submitted you from guard.
Exactly.
I'm a
Yeah.
big guy, so it does.
That's why I make the point of whenever I roll with people, I usually go to guard and sweep first, and especially if it's somebody like way smaller, I'm only gonna play to the level of their strength and everything. So I'm never gonna just get in there and manhandle somebody. But yeah, I always start in guard, and then that way it kind of takes a lot of that out versus putting them on their back and passing right away. They can't as easily say, "Oh, that's just because you were big and have no technique."
Yeah, it drives me up the wall. So, that being like one of the biggest issues with being a big guy in jiu-jitsu, especially being on talking about jiu-jitsu on the big jiu-jitsu show. Like, what are some other things being as a bigger guy or a bigger person doing jiu-jitsu you've run into, like some problems, or just maybe just like weird things people don't think about?
I think just mainly it's that stigma of that your jiu-jitsu is only good because you're big. That's kind of a common one, no matter how accomplished you get until you kind of reach a certain level. People are gonna say, well, you got away with that because you were big. And yeah, there are people out there who do use that. But when you get to the higher black belt levels and you've been in it for a long time, I'm telling you, man, I'm the same size or smaller than a lot of the guys that I face in the tournaments. So it's not a matter of big or small. It's a matter of who has better technique at that point, because the playing field's equal. So you better have decent jiu-jitsu overall. It better work whether you're big or small. So for me, it just seems to be that stigma that goes along with it. And it's just a typical kind of labeling thing. I like to tell my students people like to label to make themselves feel better about inadequacies that they have. It's like my friend Hillary Van Ornum says. She says, we get on big people for being big, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said, you never hear people getting on little people for being small and fast.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, you're small. You did that because you're small, fast, and flexible. Like, you don't hear that as much. It's always oh, you're big, you're strong, or this or that. So, but it's all good. It just comes with the territory, brother.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. Maybe I bitch at my students, like, stop moving so fast. Yeah, I'm trying to submit you, or just like messing with them. We've got a couple guys at our club out here, and it's just such a it's like trying to, I guess, like put a cat in a kennel, like the little kennels. It's the same fucking thing. Like, it just drives me up the wall.
Like trying to herd cats,
yeah.
Right?
Just like, hold still. Like, but somebody else pointed out that if I'm going to use my size to my advantage, you don't think somebody smarter is going to use their speed to their advantage. So it does kind of
exactly
evens it out. So I don't see why, unless I'm straight up just laying on top of the person trying to neon belly them into through the mat.
Yeah, and of course, everything, it depends on the circumstance, right? Like, if it's you and a brand new person who's small and you're a upper belt and you're just smashing them, yeah, obviously you are just getting away with a lot of that because you're being big and strong or whatever. Or if you have two people who come in that are brand new and one is big and strong and maybe they have some experience in wrestling and the other person doesn't have anything, the big person usually is going to dominate there for a while until the smaller person starts to understand the technique and leverage and all of the principles that jiu-jitsu teaches us, and then the playing fields will even out a little bit over time.
Yeah, and then it just becomes jiu-jitsu. I do find that interesting, though, that, like you said, when you hit a certain point, like in your tournament, your tournament career, that you're going to face people who have the same skill level as you do, regardless of kind of, how you all got there. But,
exactly. It's pretty, it pretty much comes down to the point where it's all down to timing and your mental game at that point. Because technique wise, you're pretty much all on the same playing field, and it comes down to that timing and who makes the move first without thinking.
Yeah, and you've been pretty successful in your tournament competitions, correct?
Yeah, so last year I won the World Masters IBJJF tournament. I won the championship, so that was my first World Championship as a black belt. I took silver in that tournament in 2013, so I was very close then. I also had a good run in five grappling when they came down to the Portland, Oregon area. Ended up winning three of the belts, winning three divisions there. So for me, my competition career really picked up probably around 2013 was when I kind of had a big breakthrough and started performing the best at a high level.
And it just went up from there. So yeah, congrats on winning this past
Thank you.
tournament. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, and then this year I lost in the quarterfinal at the World Masters. So it was a great experience, but just all that was on the board was an advantage point, and the time ran out. So it's kind of part of the game, you know?
Yeah, it happens. And that's a fun part about tournaments is, you never really know who you're gonna roll the dice and see who you get. Like talking about going to Naga and people were laughing about like, oh, nice little local Naga tournament, and then John Jones shows up and
Yeah,
it just might not be your day that day either. You walk out on the mat, you trip, and you break your arm or something. I don't know, like.
No, and one thing I've learned is it's not always about who has better jiu-jitsu. A lot of times, depending on the rule set of the tournament, it's who has a better strategy. So the person may not necessarily out jiu-jitsu you at all, but if they have a good strategy, they can definitely come away with the win.
Yep. And then, like you said, it's just strategy. And I mean, like, to me, for tournaments too, it's just like I go out there and try to have fun. I put way too much, I guess, thought into the whole I have to win, I have to be the best type thing, and then I ended up having very sour attitudes if I did not win.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of like just letting it go, because I always say that I'm the worst person to take my own advice, because I'll tell my students like, dude, don't worry about it. It's a tournament.
Yeah,
like,
just have fun.
And then I go out there and I lose. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this sport, man.
Yeah.
This is terrible, but I need, like, it's helped, taking that mindset and just, realizing that it's not that I suck. It's just, it's just not my day.
No, and a great piece of advice I was given a long time ago by one of my mentors, a gentleman named Alan Moeller, who has an amazing school down in Dallas, Texas, and he's just got a ton of wisdom. And he told me years ago, he said, James, only compete when it's fun for you, because it should be fun. If it's not fun for you, you're not going to go in there and have a good experience. So I'm going to always make that rule for myself that it has to be fun. I need to make sure I go in with the right attitude and not just doing it because it's something I have to do or because somebody else wants me to do it. It needs to be fun and enjoyable for me in order to get the greatest amount of benefit from it.
So do you place a lot of stock in people doing like tournaments for promotion, or is it mainly like a case-by-case basis with a person who's training at your academy?
So for me, like, I don't require people compete, but I encourage people to do it, just for the kind of realism it provides, in the sense that hopefully that's the closest somebody's going to get to an actual altercation. Granted, there's no strikes or anything like that involved, but depending on if they're doing jiu-jitsu or MMA. But if they're doing jiu-jitsu, there's no strikes, but you still get that adrenaline and see how well you manage that, and your mind, when your mind's racing, how well do you keep that under control? So it is very much similar to an altercation outside of the mats in that respect. So I try to get people to at least try it once so they can kind of see how they react in those type of situations and how much of their jiu-jitsu still shows through with all those factors in place. So for me, my people that like to compete, I encourage them to compete and get in as much experience as they can, especially if you're newer to jiu-jitsu and you love competing, man, get as much experience in as you can between white and black belt. Don't go in there and try to jump in later in the game. You're going to have a lot harder journey than if you gain all those valuable lessons along the way over the years leading to black belt. So I encourage them to do that and to get that experience. And you know what? The funny part is most people who actually take that step to try it usually end up loving it too.
Yeah, get them out of their comfort zone, getting them in there.
Yeah. So I don't promote based on competition. I don't think that's one aspect of the game. Just because somebody wins at a tournament doesn't mean they're a certain belt level or vice versa. Because sometimes you'll have the guy who taps everybody in the school, is tapping people above his belt level, and then he goes in a tournament and completely shuts down and can't even win a match. And then on the opposite side of the coin, I've seen people where I thought they were just going to go out there and have a horrible experience, and they submit everybody in their division, and you're like, whoa, where did this person come from?
Yeah, just they're on it, and it's awesome. Like I love seeing surprises like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I actually had one of my kids from my little kids class it was a very shy little kid, and it never really seemed like he was really putting his all into jiu-jitsu, but he showed up, every time. And in class, he's the one little kid that would just like tip over, let the other kid push him around, pass his guard, never really fight back. And about 4 or 5 months ago, his dad asked me, can he do a tournament? And I said, well, if he keeps training hard and everything, I'll let him go out there and get that experience. And man, if he didn't go out there and become a completely different kid, he was taking it to the other kids. I said, man, you've been paying attention. You do know everything I showed you. He said, yes, coach. Now it's all he can talk about is wanting to compete again. And he's even doing better in class now when he spars and everything. It's like he opened up a whole new chapter of jiu-jitsu for him, just getting out there and getting that competition experience.
Yeah, kids are like hilarious to watch because they're like just nice and fun, and then they just become just animals on the mat. They like do things I've never even thought of, and then they just like pull off these amazing submissions as well. Like if you get a kid with enough experience, it blows my mind how much that they can put together, especially, somebody who likes to go out and compete. Their parents don't really like give them the crazy soccer mom or dad type, treatment,
right.
But they encourage them, and then they just have like this amazing game. Being like a 10-year-old, it's nuts.
Yeah, they're like sponges, man. They learn so quick, and I think it's because they don't have all those little mental limitations that as adults we put in place for ourselves. It's like they don't have anything telling them they shouldn't be able to do something, so they just try it. Whereas we'll have these little barriers in our brain like, oh, I would never be able to pull that off. You won't even try it. Kids go out there and they just go for it. They have no inhibitions when it comes to playing their jiu-jitsu, which is great. We, as my friend Keith Owen says, we need to approach jiu-jitsu with a child's mind. Be open to learning everything and anything that is beneficial. We should be open to learning it and not have all these preconceived notions that we kind of go into it with.
Yeah, there's so much stuff still out there that people are working on. Like, I started, I want to say like 2005, 2006, got out for a little bit because joined the military, couldn't keep up with it.
Right.
Got back into it. And then it's just like from there, even that short amount of time from there to now, starting back up, like, what was it 2010, 2011 till now, like the amount it's changed. Like, people are still innovating because, like you said, they're approaching it with an open mind.
Yeah, and it's always evolving, right? Because the beautiful part about jiu-jitsu is we can kind of all put our own fingerprint on it. And, one guy does a grip a little bit differently or places his leg in a different way. And then you delve into this whole new area and this whole new game that starts to develop off of those things and all the variations that come along with it. So that's what's so great about jiu-jitsu. You know, I mentioned earlier how I kind of felt like I had stagnated when I was doing karate. I've never felt like that with jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu over 20 years now. I've been a black belt now for, I think, going on 11 or 12 years. And I've never felt that way. I've never felt bored. I've never felt like I wasn't continually learning. So I just think that's so amazing to just have this endless journey that we can go on for the rest of our lives. And none of us will ever completely master every aspect of jiu-jitsu. And I think that's the thing that keeps people coming back day in and day out.
It's like the incomplete puzzle, you know. Always got to try to get that last little piece in, I guess, before you go to bed almost. Like, you know, my wife likes doing puzzles and stuff like that, so she'll like at least take a couple minutes to try to figure one part of it out before she like heads to
and
bed.
it really captivates your mind in that sense. It really keeps you thinking all the time. You know, I do a lot of work that I'm really proud of with the disabled veterans and things at my school, and that's one of the things they tell me. They're like, man, when I'm at home, I no longer think about those things that were traumatizing me. They're like, I'm thinking about jiu-jitsu instead. Like, jiu-jitsu has replaced those thoughts in my brain. And I just think that's amazing that it's so captivating, and it keeps people's minds so occupied to where it can greatly benefit someone who's battling PTSD or whatever it may be like that. I just think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that was something I did want to touch upon. You know, like a lot of the people on our show, like mainly me and Sean's prior military I'm currently in, and you know, through jiu-jitsu, through, you know, even just, you know, exercising in general on base, we met people who've used jiu-jitsu or other forms of exercise to help deal with PTSD and other issues they may have encountered while they were overseas. And I want to talk a little bit more about like some of your involvement with helping out the veteran community with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of work with the We Defy Foundation. We Defy Foundation, what they do is disabled veterans can go on there and apply to be a sponsored athlete, and then We Defy will send them to a We Defy affiliate school in their area. So they work with jiu-jitsu schools as well as certain fitness facilities. And then if they're accepted into the program, then We Defy, it's a nonprofit, and they will pay for the person's training at that place. So it's a really cool thing. I was one of the first, I want to say first 7 schools that they became affiliated with as far as jiu-jitsu academies. And I now have 6 or 7 We Defy athletes training full time at my facility. So We Defy actually pays for that. Not only their training, they provide 2 jiu-jitsu uniforms to them, patches for their uniforms, as well as weekly or monthly private lessons with me as well. They cover all of that on their full sponsorship. So it's just something really cool to be involved with, and just seeing how quickly it changes these guys' lives. Like, we're talking literally after like a month of training, like night and day difference compared to how they were when they came into the academy. So it's really something I'm proud to be involved with.
No, that is awesome. And I know from my perspective, we've had guys come through, or I've trained with guys who've been, you know, dealing with issues, and then jiu-jitsu's helped them out. So the fact that there are people out there who want to help them out is huge, especially, you know, since it's jiu-jitsu, a lot of people don't, you know, kind of take it for granted. You know, it's talk about the jiu-jitsu life and whatnot, but
it's something you have to experience on your own to understand how powerful it is. But I think, you know, seeing how it works with these veterans really is a shining example of the power of jiu-jitsu and its ability to help somebody outside of the mats in their everyday life, because all of the principles and lessons in jiu-jitsu are directly transferable to our daily lives. And I think once people see that connection, it just opens up a whole new world for them.
Oh, it really does. It really, like, seeing the change, like you said, just night and day from somebody who didn't train to, like, even after one session. It really, like, is just amazing how much it impacts a person like that and helps them out.
Yeah, and I think it really resonates well with our service members, and Julia Gumpert, who's involved with running Mission 22, she does a lot of help with them, of course, providing awareness about the veteran suicide epidemic and all of that. She puts it well. She says that it works well for them to do jujitsu because if you think about it, there's a hierarchy. There's standards in place, there's uniforms, there's rank, and a lot of the things that people are accustomed to who are in a branch of the service, already accustomed to having that kind of regimented lifestyle, and they get some of that back when they join jiu-jitsu. So it's something that resonates really well with somebody who's been in the service.
So if people wanted to give to the We Defy Foundation, because to me it sounds like a great foundation to, either give time, money, whatever you can, what would be like, how would they go about doing that?
So it's really easy. They can just go to wedefyfoundation.org. So wedefyfoundation.org. And they have the ability to go on there, make a donation. They can even get I believe, a shirt or some patches as part of like a little gift for giving a donation if they want. And then they also have the ability to, if they're a facility that wants to apply to be a We Defy affiliate location, they can do that through the site as well. So if they have a jiu-jitsu school that they run or a fitness facility who wants to be able to offer the program there, the application is right there on that same website.
Nice. Well, hopefully some of the people listening to this will take advantage of that and help out.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to do that. Something that really touched me and kind of showed me how powerful it is one of the gentlemen, it was one of the first gentlemen who got in on the We Defy program at my academy that was placed with me. After about a month of training, he wrote me this letter, and it was very touching. It basically said how, when he came back from Afghanistan, he didn't feel like, it's hard to explain, but the way he worded it, he didn't feel like he actually came home. Like he left himself over there, and he wasn't the same when he came back. And he said that through just what little jiu-jitsu training he'd had over a month or two, that I helped him come home. Like he feels like he's home now. So if that doesn't show you how powerful this stuff is, I don't know what will. So I encourage anybody who's in a position to help, I think they really should take action and help.
No, that's really good to hear. That it is, like, from a firsthand experience, that it actually is making a big difference like that. So that's really good to hear, and I'm glad that you were able to help them out with that.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help however I can. I'm always here. I'm always here for anybody listening. If you're struggling, you have any kind of issue, you can always message me through my Facebook page, or even friend me up on Facebook, as long as you don't have any like horrible stuff posted on your wall for your Facebook. I might not accept your friend request, but if you got jiu-jitsu stuff on there and all that, I usually accept it. But anybody can go on and like my page. If they go to facebook.com/James300Foster, they can give that a like. And if they message me through there, it gets to me just as quickly. Because I know sometimes people just need somebody to listen or somebody to talk to, and I want to make it publicly known that I'm always here for that. So I'm a night owl. I'm usually up at 2 a.m. Sometimes I'll see messages come through, and people are like, "Man, you responded right away." It's like, yeah, I'm up late. I'm a business owner.
Especially with this, like a jiu-jitsu or a martial arts school in general schedule is. Man, it sucks if you want to hang out with people at night.
Yeah, so, and that brings up a funny topic. I like to say anybody can open a school, but that doesn't mean everybody should. Like anybody has the ability to open up a jiu-jitsu academy, but a lot of people go into it just thinking that all you need to have are some mats and an instructor, and it's magically all going to come together, and you're going to have a fantastic academy. But the fact of the matter is, it's a ton of work to do it right, and I always put in that clause there of to do it right, because again, you can do it, but if you really want to do it right, it's going to be a lot of work, and it has to become your life.
Yeah, you definitely cannot half-ass a academy whatsoever with that was something, because before I joined the military, I ran a Taekwondo school, which,
Right.
like, I always feel for the people that are like, yeah, I started karate, or like you say, you started karate, then you did jiu-jitsu, or some people did kung fu or whatever. So I really do understand. Or like, well, I came from Taekwondo and had this guy come in and, he showed us something on the ground. I'm like, that shit's really cool. I need to start learning.
Yeah, yeah. And see, you were one of the ones that was open to it. The sad part about my story is, my karate school, I'd been there so long, it was like family. And unfortunately, the higher ups in that organization, they weren't too keen on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So they kind of put up with a few of us because we were instructors there, dabbling in it. But when the rubber met the road, they were kind of like, you either need to go learn that or keep training here. You can't do both. So unfortunately, I guess fortunately because of where I am now, but unfortunately at the time, because it was really sad, I had to make that choice to leave that school, that family I'd been with for almost 10 years. And I'm glad I made that choice, but at the time it was pretty gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I will say I do feel pretty fortunate the fact that I'm still like kind of involved with the organization I was with. Not like to the point of where I'm, competing or teaching or,
right.
But my sister, my brother-in-law, my two sisters, and then my brother-in-law, they both still teach there, so they're really cool with me coming back, throwing on the old uniform and kicking and punching.
And that's awesome. And I never take anything away from that experience. Like, I don't badmouth like, oh, karate sucks or anything like that, because there was a lot of great principles I took away from my time there. And my story kind of, it kind of circles back around there, because how I first started teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was because the new owners of the school I used to train at, the karate facility, the new owners were very receptive to grappling. And this is right around the time that amateur MMA started getting popular. So they actually contacted me and said, hey, we know you used to be part of the family here. Would you be willing to come here and teach a jiu-jitsu class a couple days a week? Because we've got these guys who want to do MMA, and a couple of them have fought and they do great on the feet, but if somebody gets them on the ground, then they're getting tapped out. So they need to work on, their ground games. So, that new owner, he was real receptive to it, and that was how I first got started teaching BJJ. And I don't really believe in coincidences. That all happened right at the same time where the school I was training at was going to relocate. I was already driving hour and a half each direction, so 3 hours round trip to maintain my training. This is why it bugs me when people complain about, oh, it takes me 10 minutes to get to the school. I'm like, bro, like, I used to do 3 hour round trip to train. You guys have it good.
Yeah.
But so the place I was training at, they moved like another 45 minutes away on top of that. And I wasn't able to follow them. I just couldn't make that commute. And so that was right at the same time or shortly after that I was contacted to start teaching a couple days a week. So I wouldn't have made the choice to start teaching because I was a purple belt at the time. Granted, I was a purple belt for like 4 or 5 years, like due to the circumstances of, the lack of training, lack of availability of training in the area. So I was a blue belt for like 4 years and a purple belt for 4 or 5 years. So, but I wouldn't have made that choice to teach as a purple belt if it wasn't for that circumstance coming about, and that opportunity being placed in front of me. Teaching jiu-jitsu, that was never my plan. Like where I am now, I didn't plan that. That's just something that organically happened, and I'm just so blessed that it did. I love my life, love what I do. So I think everything works out in the manner that it's supposed to.
No, I agree with you on that. So, like, what was the transition then from, like, yeah, I'll come help you guys out, to academy, like owning an academy and running it?
So how it worked out was when I first started teaching there, I was in their little tiny facility that was carpeted. There was no mats, and it was actually the same facility that I started karate in. So it was about the size of a small living room, and it was all white carpet, which is, I don't know, white's such a poor choice for carpet when you're going to have people's bare feet on it and people possibly bleeding. But yeah, white carpet with no pad underneath. So white carpet right on top of concrete that we used to train on. So I started teaching there once or twice a week, and shortly after they had moved into a bigger, they had opened a second location that was way bigger, and they allowed me to use the other half. So it was like two adjacent buildings with a hole punched between, like an archway, and they let me, I bought some wrestling mats, and they let me use that other half. So probably 6 months into it was when we transferred over to there and started teaching out of the bigger spot where I had my own mats and everything, and we weren't rolling around on carpet. So
I can only imagine how hard
which
that
was
would be.
Yeah, that was nice. That was quite a luxurious change to go from carpet to wrestling mats. But it still was really small, and at that time when I was teaching out of the carpeted place, I wasn't charging any money. It was just kind of my way to giving back to the martial arts school that I came up in. I was just helping their guys that were wanting to fight out. And then from there, word started spreading, and more people were inquiring about wanting to train with me. And so they're like, "How much is it to train?" And I threw out like $30 or whatever. So it's like $30 a month for people to train, and it just snowballed from there. So I was actually I taught out of the bigger location for about almost 3 years, and then I grew. I think I had 50 students at the time, and that was when I branched out and in 2007 and got my first location of my own. And then we outgrew that in the first year. It was like a really small place, but we were on a 3-year lease. So we had to add a ton more classes to kind of spread things out and make room, because there was so many people in every class. And then when my lease was up there in 2010, I moved into the facility that we're in now, which is a beautiful, 5,500 square foot facility, almost 3,000 square feet of mats, and just a really nice place. So we've been there for the last 6 years. So yeah, it kind of snowballed, and it all kind of went to plan, I guess, when it started to come together. It was a great thing to see. It kind of just came together naturally.
No, that's really awesome. Like, I'm happy to hear that. You outgrew it in like a year. I kind of feel like I said, I kind of feel for you there too, because if you start in a very small facility and then people just start getting in there, like we started assigning people classes.
Yeah.
I was like, nobody can fit in this academy, man. It was like the size of a print shop, like a Kinko, not even a Kinko.
Right.
It was like a UPS store size,
Yeah.
like Taekwondo school. We have like little kids kicking each other on accident, and I was like,
See, but that's what you call having it's a good problem to have, right?
yeah.
So, as much as it was tough and stressful, it was like, okay, well, things are going well. We just got to be patient and make this last until our lease is up, and then start looking for a bigger place, which we found a really nice one. And I'm actually happy to say this last July, we renewed our lease there for another 5 years. And they did a ton of really great improvements. Each time I've renewed my lease with them, they've done a lot of improvements for us. So we have a really neat climate control system now that takes the moisture out of the air and makes the training environment a lot better. And yeah, so it's just a great spot to be in, and it still has a lot of room to be expanded and improved upon in years to come. So it's the headquarters.
That's awesome. I'm like hearing about the moisture getting taken out of the air. I'm actually pretty jealous about that. Plenty of days where just locked in a room.
Yeah.
And the
Well, we
moisture's
had
on the windows and whatnot.
For the last 6 years there, we've been battling a bad mold issue because 3 of the sidewalls are concrete, and so anytime it's colder outside than inside, or vice versa, the concrete walls would sweat. And even though they're painted with kills and all the anti-mold stuff, mold would still grow on them. So it's been a constant battle, like me buying dehumidifiers and buying tons of mold cleaner, and my custodial people cleaning constantly to keep the mold out of the way. So now it's like, after 6 years of that, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars I put into trying to deal with that, now we have this nice system that's completely taken care of the problem. So I'm really happy about that. But I'm sure that's why people tune into your podcast to listen about mold control. And
it's one of the bigger topics we've had. A lot of people talk about the black mold problem we have, as well as custodial issues in jiu-jitsu academies, and but that does, like, it comes back to something I did want to touch more upon. You talked about, if you're going to open an academy, you got to do it right. And I think lot of people romanticize the thought of, well, I'm going to open up a jiu-jitsu academy, live that jiu-jitsu life, and I'm going to walk in with my whatever black belt, and then money's just going to fall from the sky. Like, and then that's all they have to worry about is show up, open up the doors, teach. People will throw wads of money at them because I guess people think they understand jiu-jitsu like they understand it. And I think it causes like a big issue. So
so you need to understand business. If you want to open a jiu-jitsu school, you need to have a basic understanding of business. Or if you're not the one who's going to be owning the school and you're going to be teaching there, the person who owns it better have a good grasp on basic business practices and kind of understand how all of that works in reality. Otherwise, you're going to have issues, because just showing up and teaching classes and all these other things is such a small part of having a successful academy. There's so much that goes into it on the back end. So many sleepless nights and hours of 16-hour days doing things at the academy and making it a good environment for everybody to train. It's kind of like that. I'm sure you've seen that meme where it shows everybody sees the top part of the iceberg. They don't see the bottom part, like all the stuff you've done to get there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's a constant, I wouldn't say battle, but it's constant maintenance to maintain a successful school and cultivate and maintain a great training atmosphere. So if I had to give advice on starting a school, I would say don't get to where you're getting a big loan and getting in debt to do it if you're doing it on your own. I tell people, if you seriously think you want to open an academy, start saving now and like literally have your first 6 months rent saved up, so that when you do get in there and you do realize that hundreds of students don't magically just show up on opening day, that you're going to be able to cover your rent and your overhead for at least 6 months while that kind of catches up and the word gets around that you're there. I think that's one of the biggest ones because people go into it unprepared and they go into it without a student base. And then all of a sudden, when people aren't knocking down the door, it's like, oh man, what did I do?
I was gonna say, I think a lot of people aren't very like active going out and trying to find people to come to the gym too. Like, they'll just. I always think of the person like sitting there at the desk staring at the phone, like just waiting
Right.
for the phone call of, hey, I watched UFC last night and saw this guy get choked out. I was wondering, do you guys teach that or?
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, you get a lot of people that want to be the next big UFC superstar, which is cool because it shows you how mainstream it is, but the majority of people have no idea what it takes to get to that point. It's like the same odds as somebody becoming a professional baseball or basketball or football player. So, but there's nothing wrong with that. The people wanting to do that, that's great. And you will get people who stick with it even when they do realize how much work it is. You kind of weed out the ones who are serious about it and the ones who just like the idea of it or like to be able to say that they're a fighter, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes right now. You can't see me. But yeah, I think that's one of the things with opening an academy. People will get in there and just not have an idea of basic business. So your social marketing, your web presence, your website, all of that stuff is really important. And word of mouth, providing great instructions so that your students are excited to train with you and that they want to tell their friends and family to come train with you. That's one of your biggest ones, going to be your word of mouth from your students, having a great time and wanting to share their love of the academy with others.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think gone are the days of the, like when I started, obviously it was not as early as you did, but it was like you're going to show up and we're going to beat each other up pretty much, and it's going to be painful and it's going to,
Right.
it's not going to be fun. There's, you don't have, it's either you're going to do it to compete and fight or you're not going to do it. Like there's no in between.
That's how pretty much all the schools when I started, that's how they were. Like, I'll tell you a basic class at like one of the second academy I trained at, like the second instructor I trained under. There were 2-hour long classes, right? So 2 hours long. And the first hour was all exercise. So it was literally run for half an hour combined with a bunch of drills, no less than 500 reps of ab work, tons of push-ups, until you were just exhausted after that first hour and had nothing left. And then you did a little bit of technique for maybe like 15 minutes or whatever, technique drilling. And then the rest of the time we sparred. And then we would take our gi off. And then we would do no gi for another hour or two after the class was officially done. So that was the kind of training, kind of that sink or swim. Everybody was trying to take everybody's heads off, and every roll was like a match at the finals at Worlds. So I totally feel you on that. But then you start a business up and you realize how counterintuitive that is to maintaining a student base, because let's be real, most people coming in, they have a day job. They're not wanting to be the next world champion. They're wanting to do something to stay in shape, have a fun new hobby, see all these great benefits that jiu-jitsu can bring to them. And that's the people whose job it is for us to cater to, or it's our job to cater to those kind of people, not the 0.1 or the 0.01% that wants to be the next world champion, because most of those people are the ones that want to come in and not pay to train. Like the people that want to be the next UFC guy or the next world champion. And a lot of times they want to do all that, but then I'll clean in order to train here, and I'll represent your name and all that, which is not bad. Like if they're serious about it. Like I have plenty of people I've made deals with and helped out over the years, but if that's your sole clientele that you're targeting, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be able to pay the bills, because your average people and your kids program are going to be your two biggest sources of your monthly income that can go and help pay your bills. And hopefully after you do that for several years, then you'll be able to, break even and maybe bring home a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, that would be nice. I was going to say, like, I was one of the sick individuals that actually did enjoy, like, getting beat up every day. But like you said, I was, that's rare. Not everybody wants to stay for that. And you'll see it, like, it's pretty much.
Well, and I obviously was too, right? Because I made it through all that.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with it. Hey, it fits you. 300. If you watch the kids training, they're just getting the tar beat out of them. It fits you perfectly then, right?
But I would always watch and observe, and I would see, like, your average person come in to try the class, and I would look at the look on their face, like, after the warm up, and I'm like, we're never going to see that person again. Like, I would tell my friends, I'm like, that guy's never going to be back. Like, it's too much. The warm up's too hard. Like, I knew even back then, like, even though I enjoyed it and it was something I was dedicated to, I'm like, man, your average person's not going to be able to stick with this. And if they do, like, start, they would usually end up getting hurt or discouraged and quit after a few weeks. So it wasn't any surprise to me that a lot of the places that I was at shut down after a year or less back in those days.
Yeah. And then, it's unfortunate, because how many people could still be doing it now if it was kind of just, a little different mindset, not a completely different one, but maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Jiu-jitsu is going to be one of the hardest things that anybody ever does in their life. And it kind of shines a mirror on us, and it really shows us who we truly are. So, I mean, it's not for everybody. Like, it can be a pretty intense thing, but those people that do have a good instructor and see it through, I mean, the benefits are countless.
Yeah, and I agree. And like you said, between helping out average person, even going through helping out veterans and stuff, like, the outreach you can do with this sport is amazing. And, the more we can spread it, I mean, I'm kind of like, I guess, preaching to the choir. If you're listening to this show and you don't do jiu-jitsu, you probably should start doing it. I don't know why you're listening to this, but I'm preaching to the choir.
It's the smooth sound of your voice.
I can get real smooth and real creepy with the voice too. So I might do another podcast, just the Creep Show podcast. Or
late night. Late night memoirs.
Rob, we'll talk about some weird shit on this one. No,
I was gonna say, one of my goals a couple of years ago was to be a lot more involved with charity and trying to use jiu-jitsu as a means to touch people's lives and improve people's lives. So I've seen the jiu-jitsu community do some amazing things that I've never saw in other martial arts, other sports. So I think it's really important of influence to help in whatever way that they see fit. So I love doing charity seminars for different causes that I feel passionately about. And obviously, like we talked about with the We Defy Foundation and Mission 22 and all of that kind of stuff. And, are you familiar with a young man named Jared Jr.? Did you follow his story at all online?
I can't say that I have or I'm familiar with
it. So one of the things that really opened my eyes, I already knew how amazing the jiu-jitsu community was, but a couple of years ago, there was a young man named Jared Jr., Jeremy Jr. He was fighting cancer, and he had fought cancer before, and it had gone away, and then it came back like really bad. And he was a jiu-jitsu person down in Santa Cruz, I believe, Santa Cruz area of California. And him and his dad trained together, Jeremy Sr. So it's Jeremy Montez Jr. and Jeremy Montez Sr. And so I had heard about Jared Jr.'s story and his fight and everything. And for some reason it really touched my heart, and it really hit me that I wanted to do something to help. So at that time, I saw that Shoyoroll and some other people were doing some things to help, and we all banded together and started. People were like donating geese for auction to raise money to help with his medical expenses and everything you can think of. And within, I want to say, less than a week, we had raised like $20,000 to $30,000.
Wow.
Just the jiu-jitsu community, just people who were connected through Facebook and all these things, sharing this story and raising awareness about his fight and everything. So, sadly he passed a couple years ago, but the slogan is Jared Jr. never tapped. So he was a fighter through and through. But that was one that really showed me the power of what we can do when we work together for the greater good and put others ahead of ourselves. So now I make it a point to help as much as I can whenever I'm able to, and I encourage others to do the same.
No, it's like I've seen that like not necessarily with that story, but yeah, I've seen a lot of people rally behind other people in the jiu-jitsu community in times of need. And I mean, that's something that you probably aren't going to see in many other communities. Like, you throw up something like, I'm not talking down about like a baseball community or anything like that, but
I've never seen it. I've been around a lot of different things, and I've never experienced it. And I talked to a lot of other people, and there's just something unique about our jiu-jitsu community that it can't be put into words. It's literally something that people have to experience on their own and become involved with to really get it. But it's such a beautiful thing and an amazing thing to be involved with.
No, and I'm fortunate to be a part of it, and whatever we can do to help, like, I'm all about. And like, I enjoy seeing people get behind others like that. It's cool too, because I talk about, like, I always go back to tournament stuff. Where else can you beat up somebody and be friends with them after?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of my best friends in jiu-jitsu are people that I competed against, and then we became friends and stayed in touch after. And you don't see that in a lot of different things either. It's just, I don't know, maybe there's something a little twisted in our brains.
Yeah,
or maybe we're the normal ones.
Yeah, we are it's like the crazy person thing. Like, dude, we're not crazy. Everybody else is weird. We're not the weird ones.
We're the normal ones.
We're the normal people. And if you don't want to, then you're weird, man. You don't want to roll on the ground with people in pajamas and try to put each other to
exactly.
sleep. Weirdos.
Completely normal to us.
Hell yeah, absolutely. So before we finish up here, James, would you like to give some shout outs? Like, anything you want to say? The mic's yours. Get nuts if you want. I'm cool with it. So
I'm a pretty laid back guy, so I don't know how nutty it's gonna get. But of course, I've got to give a shout out to my sponsor, Shoyoroll. Greatest jiu-jitsu brand on the market. Not only awesome gis and apparel, but some of the nicest, most genuine people you'll meet are the people behind the company. Speaking of the charity things, they do a lot of stuff that's unseen by the public, and some stuff that's seen by the public to help with a lot of different causes. So that's something that really means a lot to me, and I'm just so honored to be part of their family. Of course, encourage everybody to go out and check out the We Defy Foundation. Do whatever you can to support. A lot of us, we put ourselves into the equation when it comes to things like being charitable. And I've seen people go, well, I can't afford to give too much, so I'm not going to give any at all. Like, you make it about yourself when you do that. It's not about how much you can donate, because every little amount or little bit helps. So don't make it about yourself, even if you can donate a little bit. Or it can be something as simple as sharing a post or sharing their page, liking their page. You never know who's going to see that and be able to take action that can help greatly. So their website is wedefyfoundation.org. Also, Mission 22, mission22.com. You can also donate there. They do a lot of work providing awareness for veteran suicide and solutions, knowing the early signs, all of those things. Very important, so make sure you check them out. And New Defion, which translated, I believe, also means We Defy. I'm going to have a signature line of shirts with them, an artist line. So a lot of people don't know that I also do artwork. So that's one of my only non-jiu-jitsu hobbies. Since jiu-jitsu is my life and my full-time job, I do artwork. So they're giving me my own signature artist line alongside Chris Howder, who's also a BJJ black belt and an awesome artist. So I'm going to have a design coming out with them, hopefully sometime within the first quarter of next year, if I get my off my butt and get my artwork finished in my quote unquote spare time, right? So
yeah.
So make sure you look up New Defion. It looks like Nos Defions. I used to say it that way. He's got the shirt on. Yeah. NOUSDIFIONS. Make sure you check them out. It's also a great company that does a lot of things that benefit veterans. So I think that's about it, brother. I'm sure I could sit here and ramble on all night thanking all my different sponsors and things, but that's if people got out and really got involved with those causes, that would mean the world to me.
Yeah, just go out there and give back. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And make sure you check out James300Foster.com. So James300Foster.com. A lot of information on there. You can contact me to book me for a seminar. My seminar tour for next year is already filling up. I'm supposed to do a Mission 22 benefit seminar in New York sometime early next year, along with a bunch of others. So all the information about that, my competition schedule and everything will be on there. If you are in the Seattle area and you would like to check out my academy, whether you live here or want to drop in from out of town, you can go to fosterbjj.com. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/fosterjujitsu and facebook.com/James300Foster. There. I took up all the airtime.
No, you got all the bases covered. That's all you need, man.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to have me on. I didn't realize it was so early where you are, so I appreciate you taking the time and sacrificing sleep to have me on the podcast.
Oh man, I do it because I enjoy it too. Like it's good to meet people through this. It's just like jiu-jitsu. You know, there are people I've talked to through this I never would have otherwise.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing, right? Like we're all part of the same family through jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's just like hearing people's stories, you know, meeting people that want to give back to the community, meeting just awesome people. I love doing it. So it's my pleasure, my honor.
And I have one caveat too. You got to come on my podcast.
Hey, I'm cool with that. Trust me.
Is it okay if I plug that too? I know I used all my plug time there.
No, you can definitely plug your podcast here. I'm not trying to monopolize the jiu-jitsu podcast market.
So guys, make sure to check out the Spartan Underground podcast with myself, James 300 Foster. You can find it on iTunes or whatever different venue that you use to look up your podcast. It's on there. It's also on SoundCloud. If you go to soundcloud.com/the Spartan Underground, you'll be able to find it. And I've got some really big guests lined up that I'm real excited about. So I don't want to jinx them, so I'm not going to say who, but I have some good ones. I have some good ones that I'm getting ready to record. So I definitely love everybody to listen, and of course the most important one coming up is going to be the one with you on it. So
you
got to get you on there.
Yeah, we could definitely figure that out after this. So
For sure.
I'm always down to talk about jujitsu and just whatever comes our way.
Very cool. That sounds fun to me, man.
Good deal. So James, once again, thanks for coming on. An honor to have you on. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I know it's kind of me slacking on my end because just life gets crazy sometimes.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir again, brother.
Well,
Hey, I appreciate you, and the honor's all mine. Thank you.
awesome, thanks. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, a member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to, and check out our sponsors. We have two: Trap and Roll Soap Company as well as Tape Armor. And don't forget to go to bjjshow.com and find some of our old episodes. I'm Rob, and we'll catch you guys next time.